See. Ready?
Ready.
Cool. Hey guys, John Logan here of the Logan Home Group of Keller Williams Realty Center here in Columbia, Maryland. I am here with Sean Williams, lender, mortgage originator of SWBC. He's also out of Marriottsville here in Howard County as well. And we're here just to chat real quick about what are we seeing in the market as far as lending, what are people doing as far as lending, originations, refis, just the whole, what's going on. So Sean, real quick, if you want to give me a brief little, hey, who are you, what's going on?
Yeah, Sean Williams with SWBC. Been in the mortgage business for 20 years and am consistently one of the recognized as a top producer. Been recognized as top 1% lender in the country. And most of my business is here in Central Maryland, and it's referral based business.
Cool, man. Yeah, you and I have worked with each other for a while, so I always enjoy having you talk, or whether it was Zoom during COVID or whatever, man. But so here we are.
Yeah.
Face to face.
Appreciate it.
Love it. All right, hot topics, everybody, like we just discussed.
Yeah.
What's going on with the market? What did we see versus what are we seeing now?
Yeah, so I think it goes without being said that the last 6 months have been challenging, and I think that moving forward into the first half of this year, it's going to be challenging. The number one, what we're dealing with right now is obviously we dealt with a very abrupt increase in interest rates going up last year.
It was like over the weekend.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they obviously more than doubled. I want to say the highs for rates probably hit somewhere in the mid sevens, maybe even a little bit higher than that, without paying any points last year, and now they've dropped down into the low to mid sixes. Now VA, FHA, the government loans are going to be a little bit different than that. So generally speaking, we talk rates, we talk conventional rates. And so rates have dropped quite a bit, which is great news. Moving forward into the first half of this year, I do expect interest rates to drop. How much and when, that's an unknown. I think that the critical driver in what is going to dictate interest rates and where they go next is going to be the inflation data that continues to come out. The inflation data that has been coming out, there's a couple different inflationary reports that come out every single month for the previous month. And recently, the last several months, those numbers have been improving. Inflation is coming down. So the Fed rate hikes is having an impact. And I expect that to continue to happen into the first half of this year. May 10th, I believe it's either the CPE or CPI, don't hold me to that, which are, they're both inflationary reports, but May 10th is that's where we'll start to see a full year of inflation numbers, hopefully improving.
And this goes back to where, like, I'm assuming last year where those reports started to come out to where the Fed did what they did with that over the weekend, essentially. I mean, I use a baseline of, I think we were looking at 4% interest rates going into the weekend and then opening up at 6.5% on a Monday.
Yeah, so the projected forecast for mortgage rates last year was that they would reach 4% range, and of course we blew by that.
That's right, we talked about that.
We blew by that very, very, very quickly. All the stimulus money that's been put out there due to the pandemic, the massive spending in Washington, these things are all creating a lot of pressure on and frankly causing inflation. And inflation is the number one driver of interest rates. People have less money. The cost of goods goes up and people have the same amount of money, and obviously their buying power has gone down, and that's created a lot of havoc in the market.
Makes sense.
I do expect that, like I said, I expect interest rates to continue to drop. though I don't know that what's happening in Washington is necessarily going to help with that. So we're just going to have to see how things play out with inflation over the next couple of months.
So we're literally waiting for a full year to where
Yes.
we could essentially have our baseline of COVID numbers
Yeah.
to tangible inflation numbers.
Yes, and May 10th is going to be that full year. And,
Okay, cool.
and generally speaking, bad news is good for interest rates. If we're not already in a recession, we're going to be in a recession.
Just a matter of when and to what point.
Oftentimes, we go into a recession before we even know it.
That is historically, yes, that is true, accurately with, I mean, we were even in a recession, I think it was 2017 or 16.
Sure.
No one knew about it, and the real estate market was still just chugging along.
Right.
So that makes sense then, yeah. But yeah, it's one of those things where, and we talked about it, knee-jerk reactions to things where
Yeah.
we're going to probably knee-jerk a little harder once we realize, oh my gosh, we're in a recession.
Well, and I think what's happened now is that the Fed has maybe overcooked their rate increases. I think it's possible that they've overcooked it at this point, and oftentimes they do things looking in the rearview mirror.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I mean, listening to some of the things from Jay Powell.
Yeah.
Jerome Powell.
Sure.
I mean, he comes on after everything's said and done, and he's like, hey, we either did it right, or hey, we're looking to the future to see what we can, not his words, but backpedal on.
Yeah, and we got to be careful because really what's happening when you increase rates, it's not favorable for the jobs market.
No.
And now less jobs would be favorable for inflation, which is ultimately what the goal is to bring inflation back into like the 2% range year over year. And what's going to happen is that we are going to start to see a softening labor market. That's recessionary in itself. And however, it's a double-edged sword because that will be helpful for ultimately for mortgage rates. That should be helpful.
Okay.
So we're just going to have to. We'll see how things.
We are literally waiting to see.
Yeah.
What's gonna? So what do you think is going to happen until then with rates, or what are we being told from economists and other, I guess, economic drivers? What are we being told?
Yeah, so I think it's all about inflation. I don't really think that there's much else to it at this point.
So we're literally just in limbo with rates going up, rates going down. Obviously, fourth quarter reporting coming out, going into the first quarter of 2023.
Right.
That's going to obviously have some some tales of what we're going to be seeing with the mortgage rates, the bond market movements, and things like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of stimulus money that was put out there due to the pandemic.
And that's not a secret. Everybody knows, that was.
And we're still working, that money is propping things up.
Okay, good. That's a good, yeah.
That's propping things up, and ultimately once that is no longer taking place, and the dust settles, we've got a lot to work through as a result of the pandemic. The country, the world, there's a lot to work through. Unfortunately, I think that, and this doesn't mean for mortgage rates. This just means in general, the global economy, I think it probably is going to get worse before it gets better. Keep in mind...
Typically with a recession.
Right, that's correct. And keep in mind, bad news, as I said, bad economic news is typically good news for interest rates.
Cool.
But all the bad news that we've had over the last 6 to 12, however many months you want to go back, it's been a tough...
between Washington, between the previous administration, between gas prices, the war in Ukraine...
which certainly has impacted things too.
That's yes. Even the crypto market talks with things.
Yeah.
There's
a lot of chaos out there.
Yeah. It makes sense. That makes sense.
And these things have to be worked through.
Yeah. It's not a. This is we are. We are essentially part of a. We are no longer kicking the can down the road. There's not really any more road to be kicking it down unless we pave and go through the pain of creating that new road to get through.
Yeah, and we just need to.
I mean, just correct me if I'm wrong to cut you off, but I mean, it's been years where that cliche kicking the can in the road, it literally has happened over and over and over, and it seems like we're kind of just like coming up on a, hey, so we kind of can't do that anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, what we did was we obviously we had artificially low interest rates for a very, very, very long period of time, and now we're feeling the pain of that.
I call that the fairy tale market.
Yeah, and we're feeling the pain of that, and because of those low interest rates, what we're also feeling is we're feeling there's a lot of people out there that I'm sure that we know want to move, but the problem is that when rates were 7.5, when you own a home and you refinanced it during the pandemic, when we had these artificially low interest rates, and you refinanced it to 3%, you're not going to, in most cases, not all of the time, you're not going to give up that 3% rate on your current home and go move into another home.
No,
you're not going to do that. If if rates continue to drop a little bit more, let's just say hypothetically they dropped into the low 5s. Then those people that are sitting around 3 in their current homes, at that point they might be inclined to say, you know what, I can deal with 5. I can't deal with 7, but I can deal with 5. I'll give up my 3. I'll go to 5.
Because essentially prior to the COVID market with those artificially low rates, I mean, that's kind of where we were at, or at least moving towards.
Right.
I mean, I remember we refied our home. It was a, 4 and 3/4 or just about 5, and then we refied into a 3 and a 3.25. I don't know, but it was still low 3s.
Sure.
And then overnight, it was like, hey, here's your break-even point. You have to get to this point in the market with rates for you to get a lower rate. And we were just like, that'll never happen.
Right.
Well, it happened.
Right.
And people are like, okay. Like you said, though, I was cool with paying that higher rate. Like, I could afford it. I was cool. But now I'm like, but I don't know if I want to give up my 2.5, 2.25 anymore.
Yeah.
But it makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and now we moving forward, we've got these people that are sitting on the fence right now. Ultimately, I think people are even if rates didn't move much, and we don't have a crystal ball.
No.
But even if rates didn't move much, people are getting used to the new norm. I'm seeing more activity in the last couple weeks with mortgage pre-approvals.
So the originations versus refis.
I am.
We had that conversation where, like, for some weird reason, I want to know what's our refi market and what's our origination market doing.
Yeah, so the refi market is pretty much, it's dry.
Gotcha.
There's no such thing as a refi
exactly.
right
Makes
now.
sense.
There's really not. I mean, there's some people that
they missed the boat when it was below 6% or 5%, and I mean, we have a mutual friend that was for almost 13 or 15 years of their mortgage, they were sitting at a 7, and had no idea, and those
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Exactly, and it's fun. Hey, Marissa, I love you, but it's one of those things where I mean, it's for those that are up on top or they weren't. But yeah.
I mean, you are, so home equity is at an all-time high. People are tapping into their equity, so we are seeing some of that. Seeing a lot of inquiries for lines of credit.
Yep. You and I talk about that a lot.
Because people don't want to give up their 3% on their first mortgage, so they're not going to refi the whole thing. So they'll do a line of credit for some home improvements or debt consolidation.
Just having that
peace of mind.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. The peace of mind. So we are seeing a lot of that. And I'll say this, I think fundamentally, I hear a lot of talking heads that are saying, we're sitting on this big bubble and I
love it. I love when I hear that.
Well, look.
I've been here for 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, look, in comparing this to 2008, well, there's a lot of fundamental differences between now and 2008.
I mean, the big thing that I just, not to cut you off,
good.
I just love the conversation because whenever it comes in, it's like, do you understand the amount of government oversight there are these days to where that's not going to happen?
Yeah.
And if it does, something out of left field is gonna make it happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, all the loans that have been being made over the recent years, they're good loans. I mean, you're verifying income, you're verifying assets, you're verifying employment, you're verifying everything. Whereas back in 2008, loans that have been made leading up to that point, a lot of them, you weren't verifying any of that. Some of them were, a lot of them were interest-only features. Some of them had negative amortization features where the loan balance would actually grow over time. And people were financing 100% of the value of the property when they bought it. Right now, what we've got is we've got good loans that have been being made. We've got home equity at an all-time high. And if home equity is at an all-time high, you're not going to see a huge run of foreclosures because people can lower the price if they need to. They can lower their price and they can still get out before having to get to the foreclosure stage.
They had that buffer as far as, I guess, what modification, refi to a degree, eat that equity up and put them in a safe place.
Sure.
For
Absolutely.
Cast that safety net essentially.
Absolutely.
Okay. Cool.
So there's a lot of fun. Inventory right now. That's a big problem. Is that
we've been fighting that one. Free money during the COVID years.
Yeah.
People were buying houses to essentially just because it was the cool thing to do, not because they needed to, or wanted to. It was free money, so let's go do this.
Right.
But inventory. What does inventory? Obviously, in a real estate market, from a realtor standpoint, inventory, we battle that so much as far as a buyer's market, a seller's market, inventory for however many months that there are available per areas, counties, MLSs. All that data is one thing that's great. But what is when you as a loan originator, when an inventory question comes up, how do you respond?
Well, I mean, what I would say is that inventory right now is at a quarter of what it was back in 2008 across the country. It was at about 4.5 million in 2008, and I think right now it's around 1.1 million. Don't hold me to that. So it's a quarter. So that right there, and this isn't going to directly answer your question, but that right there,
it correlates, so you're good.
Yeah, I mean, that right there is another key fundamental difference between 2008 versus now. Is just that there's just not builders, for example, learned their lesson in 2008, and now they are much more cautious so that they're not going to get caught with their pants down, so to speak. And left holding the bag. So they've been a lot more cautious, but we do have a housing shortage.
No, and that's one of those things where as far as inventory and the talks of builders, I mean, that whole thing, I forget what the ratio was, but we talked about a lot of it back in the fall and even going into the summer where builders had to, we needed an X amount, hundreds of thousands or even into the millions almost of homes built to over the next... what did we say? I think it was between 10 years or 14 years to attempt to offset what's been happening.
Yeah. I mean, this is just a unique period of time and it's going to take time to work through this. And, again, I think we're still going to feel some more pain with the pandemic and what the fallout is there. There's lots of countries around it's a global economy. There's lots of countries around the globe that are much, much further behind.
That's a gimme. Yeah, I mean, we are as bad as it looks being, within the, so to speak, four walls of America.
Yeah.
There are other countries they're probably never going to recover.
Yeah.
Their housing market is just is disasters.
Yeah, it's going to take a long time. It's going to take a long time, and this has been it's been a perfect storm in some ways because we also obviously we have our stock market hasn't done well, and that affects people and their mentality and even though people don't necessarily a lot of times people don't touch their retirement, for example, to buy a home, but when you see your retirement go from X to X minus Y in a very short period of time, that affects your buying behavior.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So to try to put a bow on all this, obviously we're waiting for May for the inflation reports for that year.
May's going to be what it's going to be is that it'll be a full 12 months of what we think is going to be the inflation data improving month
over month.
Yes, from year to year.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Okay. So right now it's one of those where, would you say right now would be still a great time to buy?
So look, I'm
January, February, spring market, May. Nobody knows. February, obviously we're coming to the end of January. January, February, March, the time to buy a house right now.
Yeah, because you have less competition right now. And you can always, if interest, what we're getting is that people want to sit on the sidelines because people are waiting for interest rates to drop. So if they do, if you buy now and you have less competition, then you can always refinance and lower your mortgage rate.
And that's what we tell everybody. Our clients, we don't want them on the sidelines. We want them in the game. We want them, touring homes, looking at the MLS, talking to lenders, looking at their finances. Because yes, as far as inventory goes, rate goes, that mentality of I'm waiting for that lower rate. Buy now. You could always, there's different products to help you buy down your rate.
Absolutely.
There's different to where, once rates do get to the point where they're, happy with, refinance.
Yeah, I mean, you could always do it. There's what's called a 2-1 buy down. You and me have talked about that.
We have. Yeah, no, we're always talking about that, to where just don't hesitate to buy a home because you're waiting. Because if you wait, you're going to get left behind.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people think that we are going to say whatever we can we're going to twist the narrative to, whatever's going to favor us for that time based on the market conditions. And that's not true, the true professionals. But so I do know that if I was in the market to buy a home right now, I would want to buy now while there's less competition. Let's say, for example, rates drop into the low 5s first half, by June this year. I think we're already, even if rates don't change, I think we're going to have a solid spring market because of just people are getting used to the new norm. There's pent up demand with people sitting on the sidelines.
People are going to spend money.
I do. I think they're getting used to it. I mean, a lot of this is psychological. Let's say interest rates drop. That's going to create a frenzy.
Back to 2020.
There's going to be competition. Prices are going to go up.
Yep.
Would you rather buy at a lower price now? Okay. You lock in at what you lock in at, say it's 6.25, whatever it may be. And then if rates drop, you buy at a $400,000 price, you get 6.25, and then rates drop to 5. You refi to 5, okay? You save a bunch of money. Closing costs on a refi are $3,500 roughly. It depends on where you are.
Market value versus your loan value.
So in many cases, $3,500 is, a half a mortgage payment, one mortgage payment. It depends on the price. But would you rather do that, or would you rather wait in that same $400,000 house? Now you're competing against 20 other offers, and maybe you got to pay $450,000 for that $400,000 house. And you just waited for what?
Nothing.
To get 5%, and now you just paid $50,000 more.
Your equity that you would have built over that time is essentially wiped out.
You could have bought for $400,000, and now you've got equity.
Yeah.
And then you just pay $3,500 to refi. That's a better situation than waiting for the frenzy.
And these are the conversations that I know you and I are having with clients. I'm having with clients, other realtors that in the office that we talk to. We sit around and huddle like, hey, what's going on? What are we doing? What are we teaching? It's like, ensure that people understand finances. You know, I mean, not to say sound like a banker, but I mean, from a realtor to a lender, I mean, they have to understand, the consumer needs to understand their power of their finances. If they don't, they need to have a good partner in their pocket to help them out. Sure. And to guide them.
Absolutely. And start that conversation now.
Cool.
Yeah.
What so to top this and to end this out, what did rates open today? Did we catch that in the market?
Conventional 6.25 range. We got to keep in mind that this depends on whether you're paying points or you're not paying points. And
a little asterisk next to the sentence here.
Yeah, I mean, it depending on points or no points, but let's say no points on a conventional loan, it's going to be in the 6.25, 6.375% neighborhood.
And obviously, depending on credit, DTI, the
100%.
profile, all the nine.
Yeah.
Like I said, disclaimer, asterisk, disclaimer.
Yeah. So that's best case interest rates is what we're talking about here. Super well qualified, conventional buyer.
Easy.
Yeah.
Cool.
Exactly.
Anything else you want to tell us, tell the audience, people watching, anything?
I just
to help people that are on the fence, like you just said.
Yeah, I mean, I just know there's going to be better days ahead, and I know that everybody's feeling some pain right now, and you and me no different, and there's definitely going to be better days ahead, and the real estate market, I don't see us sitting on any kind of big bubble here. Matter of fact, I'd argue that it could turn out to be the opposite. Real estate's always a good investment. It always comes back over time. You and I know that better than anybody.
Cool. All right, man. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Once again, Sean Williams with SWBC. I am John Logan of the Logan Home Group of Keller Williams Realty Center here in Columbia, Maryland. And we'll have your information with the video as well. So if people want to reach out to you, they can.
Thank you.
And obviously, you know how to get a hold of me.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Thanks for having me.
Yep.